Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Goldrick. I'm the Programme Director of our Technology Enhanced Learning Programmes here in National College of Ireland. I'm going to go ahead now and share my screen. And I'm also going to turn off my camera to reduce the likelihood of any lag occurring. So as you can see on the screen, we're going to start our presentation. And firstly, welcome to those of you that are joining us in a recorded session or in our live session, whereby we're talking about a taster session for our Technology Enhanced Learning programs. So let's see what we have today. To start off, we're going to give a quick overview of our Technology Enhanced Learning programs here in National College of Ireland, both our Level 6 and our Level 7 certificates. As part of that, we're also going to talk a little bit about our teaching and learning strategy for our TEL programs and how that ties into our delivery model. Following that, we're going to talk a little bit about our example technologies that we use for engagement, collaboration, and assessment, and how they tie into wider themes of inclusivity, of flexibility, and student-centeredness. And if you're joining us in our live session, we'll also have an opportunity for some questions and answers. So let's start with our Level 6 Certificate in Learning and Technology. And this program really enables our learners to develop the knowledge, skills, and competence required to make appropriate use of digital technologies and resources to support and enhance the learning context that they are in. And you'll notice straight away that the program itself is very practical, as it allows students to select, justify, and use a range of digital resources and technologies that supports and augments their professional practices in an FET sector or equivalent. As part of the program, students will be developing, adapting, and implementing a range of digital learning resources that are relevant to their practice, and that they will be sharing those practices with their fellow practitioners. And as part of that sharing process, each student will be carrying out their own inquiry into how possible technologies can be used to enhance a particular area or areas of their practice in their own sector. And you'll notice that the award itself is at Level 6 and holds 10 ECTS credits. And the qualification itself and the course itself is over 12 weeks, so one semester. Moving on then to our Certificate in Technology Enhanced Learning at Level 7, this certificate, again, very practical in nature, aims to enhance teaching, learning, and assessment in each of our students' own professional context. And over a one-year experience, students will explore a range of effective technologies that can be used to enhance their teaching and learning strategies, also examine theories and models and practices and principles that underlie a lot of what we do when we use technology to enhance our own LTA strategies. Also similar to our Level 6, students will be carrying out their own appraisal of digital capabilities, developing resources, and evaluating the effectiveness of those resources. So strengths, weaknesses, comparisons with other technologies and other strategies as part of their own investigation. And last but not least, and crucially important to both our Level 6 and our Level 7, is that possibility of critical reflection on not only the journey of what they've gone through throughout the course and the technologies they've used, and the strategies and models they've employed, but also what the future may look like for their own teaching and learning strategies, and perhaps considering new technologies or emerging theories and strategies, and to share those insights with their fellow professionals on the course themselves. And so, in fact, our Level 6 and Level 7 programs aim to enhance good practices, both in national and possibly even in international context. And you'll notice that because our Technology Enhanced Learning Certificate at Level 7 is a one-year experience, we have 3 modules that are 10 credits, starting with our digital capabilities and learner experience. And that really allows our students to start off by reflecting and questioning their own digital capabilities, their own students' capabilities, and even their own context capabilities. And in fact, considering what we can do to support their development and their enhancement through the use of technology. And that nicely moves then into our next module in technologies in teaching and learning, whereby our students can start exploring in earnest quite a lot of our technologies in relation to how they can enhance the teaching experience, the assessment experience, and even that concept of collaborating and supporting students. And again, some of those themes will then dovetail into our final module, technologies in assessment, feedback, and learning support, where the focus really is on a diversity of assessments, both formative and summative assessments, and how we can apply and use feedback for students to support their own development and tying into the wider concept of learning support. And overall, common to both our level 6 and our level experience is our teaching and learning strategies. And what we try to aim for our teaching and learning strategy for technology enhanced learning in NCI is the emphasis of active investigation, a real practical, real world and transferable value and experience for our students, whereby they will instigate and engage with an experiential learning cycle whereby they will try out technologies, reflect on their experience, generalize, plan out and test those experience, and last and again possibly most importantly on the accumulation of all of those experience, reflect on and evaluate what they will do in the future, and to share that insight as part of our final showcase for each of the modules. Again, common to both the level 6 and level 7, we always support and we always emphasize the importance of exploring these technologies, to not be afraid of pressing the new shiny red button of technologies that they will engage in. And in fact, as part of both the level 6 and level 7 programs, we provide access and links to over 300 different tools that span over engagement concepts, platforms for collaboration, assessment tools, and quite a number of different tools and activities that students can delve into as part of their own exploration and their own inquiry cycle. And as mentioned before, we have a unique blended learning model for both the level 6 and level 7 programs, whereby we start off with a full virtual day session whereby students are orientated to the fabric of NCI, they are introduced to some of the technologies that we're going to be exploring, and we start setting out our goals for the programs themselves, what students really want to get out from the programs themselves. And you'll notice that upon the exploration of these technologies, that students will engage with a series of different activities. For example, in every second week, they will engage with directed activities, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, and followed by a series of virtual classrooms that are 2 hours long. And those virtual classrooms are typically scheduled for a 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. slot. And for any student that can't attend those events live, they're also recorded so that we can provide a flexible learning opportunity for students as well. Upon the participation in both the directed activities and the virtual classrooms, our final face-to-face event for the end of our modules, again, is a showcase event whereby students will share with their colleagues on the courses their experiences of their own active inquiry cycles on what technologies they have chosen and how they have chosen to use them to enhance what they would normally do. And just as an example and an insight into what we mean by directed activities, typically students will be faced in their second week, in their 4 weeks and so on, with a series of events that are centralized through our learning management system, Moodle, and that they can engage with them in their own time at their own pace. And for example, here we have a concept of active learning theories and strategies, whereby typically a student can engage with some readings that are relevant to the background and some YouTube clips or videos to support the enhancement and diversity of content available. And also in some cases, there will be a quiz at the end of the week of directed activities, whereby students can test their own knowledge and insights into the materials provided. And those quiz, again, they're formative in nature and they're there to support the learning accumulated as the module progresses. But also we tend to use quite a lot of different quiz generator tools so that students on the program can then get an experience of what it's like to engage with the technologies, but also start thinking about how they themselves can use the quiz technologies to support the development of their own students' learning. And just on that note, we'll explore a few more of the example technologies that students will typically engage with on both the Level 6 and Level 7 programs. And these tools are used for engagement, collaboration, and assessment. And again, will tie into stronger key themes of flexibility, of student-centeredness, and the concept of inclusivity in the classroom itself. But before we get to that, we always pose the question of, what do you see? And in a live event and in the classroom itself, we're always going to get suggestions. Well, I see a rabbit and I see a duck. And that's the important aspect to keep in mind, that depending on how you see the image, it can be both a rabbit and a duck. And that's really important, because as educators, we always need to recognize that sometimes what we see is not what other people see. And also, as educators, what we believe to be the right approach or the best technology is only one possible answer. And as we teach technology-enhanced learning, we're mindful of the fact that technologies will change, will upgrade, will develop further, and perhaps will be swapped out and changed for new emerging technologies with more usability functions and better functionality and more improvements in a general sense. So we're always mindful that the landscape of technology-enhanced learning is something that always changes and evolves. And it's always good to introduce that concept straight off with a very simple Gestalt image there. So here's one sample activity we generally use starting off a class. And if we were in a physical live classroom in National College of Ireland, it would be a case that we would have a series of post-it notes and whiteboard markers, and we'd have students in groups getting up and posting their post-it notes on a series of whiteboards, and it's a really dynamic experience. And sometimes as educators, that dynamic experience helps to solidify the learning community itself, to get students start talking and sharing insights and sharing stories, which is crucially important. Well, in this case, whether you're going to be doing some blended learning or fully online learning, or even if you're augmenting what you do in the classroom as well, we can replicate that activity using technology. And one of the technologies we can use is Padlet. And if you're in the live session today, I'm going to be playing the YouTube clip that showcases the Padlet in itself. But in this case, I'm just going to share a little bit about what Padlet can do. So Padlet, as you can see here, it can be designed with various pictures and images. I've gone for traditional blackboard or green boards of my youth. And you can get a sense that students can choose either to engage with the platform by using a QR code reader on the right-hand side, if they have a mobile device that has a QR code reader, and most smartphones generally do now, that they can hover over that image and engage with the platform on their mobile device. Or, and again, this is built into the flexibility of the platform, they can engage with that HTTPS link there that I would put in to a chat box, and they can click on it using the device that they're engaging with, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a desktop, whether it's a PC or it's a laptop. It has multiple functionality and it's quite easy to use as well. And when we pose a question such as, what areas of teaching do you think the module could help with? That's the opportunity for students to start sharing their insights into what areas they want to start trying to enhance or how considering to enhance using technology. So it's a really good way to start that sharing process. And it's a part of an active learning process as well. And typically from that, we would allow perhaps 10 minutes to 15 minutes at most for that sharing process to begin. And what we would do then, as our lecturers would be doing, would be to start looking at shared commonality of themes from the posts themselves. And we would then introduce another technology to centralize those themes. And in this case, we're using a free mind map program called Mindmap. And you can see there, Mindmap in general is a very visual way to display quite a lot of key themes and areas and represented in different ways. So again, we're tying into inclusivity here. We're using different colors and different layout so that students themselves, they can interact with each of the different artifacts. And you can see some of the themes there that would be arising, providing flexibility and choice, student-centeredness, inclusive education, and supporting students with perhaps disabilities or specific learning difficulties, and to provide spaces for students to collaborate. So they're just some of the insights that we've gained at the initial stages of the program and some of the aspirations that our students tend to glean at this stage. So there are two technologies straight away that we can use to collaborate with our students, and we can tie into themes of inclusivity as well. And again, both of the platforms that I've just mentioned are freely available with free options available. And that's a good team as well that we run through the programs themselves. The next example that we tend to introduce at this stage is the creation of dynamic photographs for mobile learning. And again, keeping into that theme of flexibility. And the program that and the platform that we introduce at this stage is called Tinlink. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on our video here, and it'll just showcase for you that particular platform.
The identified practice issue here was working with apprentices who have long textbooks with lots of material, especially parts of, say, machinery or cars or systems that they need to be able to use, and finding ways for them to be to learn it and to easily reference it, rather than, say, reading 10 or 20 pages of the book. Possible solutions to this issue, because we know that the apprentices are visual learners, so we're looking for something visual. You could take a photo and then label it, but that would be very busy and ultimately maybe off-putting as well for the learners. Tinlink is a dynamic photograph, so it only works with the particular hotspot that you're clicking. So you're enabled, it's kinesthetic form of learning as well as visual. So it's a lot of fun for the learner, and also they can put it on their phones. So even on the phone, they can be checking while they're working what part of a particular machine they're looking at. So first of all, I needed to get one of the instructors on side. So I talked to one of the motor instructors who immediately saw the potential for this app.
Sometimes fine with 14 in the group standing looking at me, maybe 50% of them is actually able to see what's going on. So on Tinlink here we have the app that's on the screen on the iPad. Down here we have the physical control panel. If an apprentice brings this up on his phone, he can press on the bullseye. So this is the control switch for punching and centering the punch while it's being replaced. It also tells what you can do when you flick the switch to the right and the left. So the apprentice is very confident when he uses this, and he can see what the controls are on it. Here is the on button, it's very, very simple. The off button, and then the functionality of the cutting station pedal for the touch and cut.
We evaluated Tinlink mostly by talking to the apprentices to see how they liked it, also the instructors as well, to see if they took it on board. I hadn't looked at Tinlink for some time, and then I looked at it recently and found one of the instructors had used it massively recently, and it increased his his image count a lot. So then I knew it was working, because if it hadn't been working, he wouldn't have been engaging with it. So I was very pleasantly surprised one day when I looked at his account and saw a plethora of photos, all carefully labelled for all the different machines in the workshop.
So as you can see there, the possibility of using Tinlink there is the ability to create a dynamic image that can be helpful for students and provide flexibility for students to have really useful content on their mobile devices, their iPads, or any portable device, and that it can support and scaffold the learning process and support the educator, the tutor, the lecturer in the learning process as well. And so it has multiple possibilities and multiple advantages across many different sectors, domains of knowledge as well. And we always have really good discussions about how our learners on our programs can use a particular technology like Tinlink in their own classrooms, in their own online or blended learning context as well. Okay, so that's just another example. Again, in a similar fashion, the ability to create digital books that combine text, images, audio, and video is extremely useful for students that we find in multiple different contexts as well. And that creation of a PDF book or digital book, that is an ability to create content that has images, that has text, that has audio and visuals. And again, it ties into wider themes of flexibility, student-centeredness, and inclusivity. And let's just see a little bit more on that.
The practice issue was that we didn't have enough good reading material for adult literacy learners. So we wanted to create our own books so that we would have constant access to good reading material that was of the right level, but also of good interest for the learners. So we looked at different ways of producing reading material. We could, for example, have used Microsoft Word, or we could have used Microsoft Publisher, or even PowerPoint to give certain slides of particular stories. But none of them were quite dynamic enough, nor easy to print or for the learner to access in the sense of turning the pages of a book. So Book Creator was the one that we hit upon, as it was very easy to use as well, and easy for the tutors and easy for the learners. So first of all, I trained a few staff on how to use Book Creator, and the staff initially created a few workbooks just to see how easy it would be. And Book Creator became immediately a hit because staff could take photos immediately of the surroundings they had. They could also use audio, and they could use links from the internet as well to put into the books. So having trained the staff, and there's a particular technique as well that we use in adult literacy called the language experience approach, which is where students dictate their stories to staff, and then out of that, the stories can be expanded and so on. So the tutors went to the students, and using the technique of the language experience approach, we were able to create short little books. For example, books on my garden, or books on my favourite place in Galway. And this could be accompanied then by photographs that could be added in, as well as audio that could be put in as well.
Loch Carroll.
So staff started using it, and then they practiced it with their learners, and then learners were ending up then producing their own books. We evaluated it by seeing how many people used it, how many people were interested in engaging it, and we found that some learners were saying, "Can I do another one?" which was very encouraging. Some learners wanted to put their names to the book, and if I asked them if I could share the book with other centres, they were delighted to do that. Tutors then started asking me for books from other centres, and even then it's ended up actually across the country that I've been emailing some the PDF forms of the books to different centres for them to use. So it certainly addressed a need and gave us a very good bank of usable, interesting adult reading material for the literacy learners.
And we can see an insight into how a product and technology such as Book Creator can be used to create a dynamic, flexible and inclusive learning experience for students. And again, has multiple advantages across multiple domains of knowledge and courses and specialisms. So we really find that particular program very, very useful, and again, free to use as well. And as with all of these technologies, in a normal class, we will be exploring the perhaps advantages and comparisons with other technologies and asking students to consider how they would use them in their own particular context. And that's what we find that creates a really good sharing potential of experience and potential experience and strategies. And as the weeks progress, the comparison as well as the combination of technology started to increase naturally. And we find that that's a really, really good opportunity for us as educators to support students in their own inquiry cycles. And the last technology we're just going to showcase today is a program and platform called Nearpod. And again, we're just looking at one curated lesson, and it's on the Internet of Things. That itself allows us the ability to transport ourselves from Earth and just go on a virtual field trip. So we're going to click on this. And what we tend to do at this point in considering not only the potential of Nearpod, but we also consider how Nearpod itself combines a series of different functions and different capabilities to enhance the learning experience. And in the preview mode, it allows us to see how a lesson can be structured in an online or blended format. So I'm going to skip through quite a little bit of this. We would, in general, take a lot of time going through how it's been structured, how it's been designed and laid out. And in this case, it gives a really good insight into what a student will be able to do upon the end of the lesson, defining and identifying and discussing activities. But what we really want to do is just dive straight in and experience the virtual field trip that I mentioned previously. And what Nearpod has done in this case, it has employed the use of a 360-degree image that students can take full control of in their own experiences and experience the Mars Curiosity rover that is currently roaming its way around Mars at the moment. You can zoom in at high definition, zoom out, and to get a sense of what the purpose of the Curiosity rover is and the technology itself employs in its amazing journey on Mars. And again, as an insight into how technology can be used, it is a fantastic way for our learners to start considering how they themselves can start leveraging multiple technologies, multiple platforms to enhance the learning, teaching, and assessment experience of the students that they currently have and perhaps will have in the future as well. So that's just a quick whistle-stop tour of some of the strategies and some of the platforms and technologies that we currently use in both our Level 6 and our Level 7 programs here in National College of Ireland. For more information, please do visit our application pages, which are on the screen above, and also feel free to reach out directly, michael.goldrick@ncirl.ie. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, our recorded session, and I wish you well.